Okay, here comes the FEIIC project, the Federation, what we call as the Examination, Qualifications, Accreditation, and Professional Systems. In short, it's ECAPS, right? The whole idea about ECAPS started way back in the early 2000s. So these are the outlines of what I'm going to cover. Let's start with quality, because everything starts with quality, really. I mean, there are, of course, different names to when we talk about quality: standards, accreditation, certification, assessment. ISO 9001 QMS is quite well known for that, right? But if we look at accreditation, which is what we're talking about, it is an independent body. It has to be an independent body to actually accredit. Otherwise, you're being influenced, right? So it is a third party really coming to you. Independent of you, independent of anything else, right? Your battery is running low. Is it not connected? And what it does is that the independent body is supposed to have an oversight on the engineering education. And that's what it is, right? And these universities or these programs will have to actually undergo, plan, do, check, and act to make sure that whatever they do actually is within the quality framework, trying to push the quality agenda of the programs, right? And the industry input is required in this process because we are also producing graduates for the industry. When it comes to assessment, this is where we talk about professional assessment, professional qualification assessment. Again, it requires an independent body. Now, what's the independent body? It's not mentioned here, of course, yet. But what it does is that it wanted to maintain what is called as the competency level expected of as an engineer. And that independent body will then vouch to say, yes, you have reached the professional level. It is still an independent body. And it could be from any one of these, right? And of course, the other aspects apart from quality, we talk about mobility. And mobility is because of employment, because you need to provide some support work. There could be also relief works, interaction between countries of certain projects, certain initiatives being done between countries. It could also be because of migration and so on. So all these are part and parcel of what we talk about mobility. So just now was quality, now is mobility. And again, when it talks about mobility, it requires engineering education as well as the professional competency. You cannot run away from that. So what ECAPS project is trying to do is, first, is the engineering degree. Do we have an engineering degree of a standard that is acceptable? And we are talking about equivalency of all this, substantial equivalence. Whereas the other one is the professional engineers. Are our professional engineers considered as having substantial equivalence? So then mutual recognition can happen. So it has got to be at both levels. So where this basically is all about the, what we call as the Medina Accord, and that is the Makkah Accord that was agreed upon amongst the Islamic countries, right? And we're saying that for ECAPS, what's the difference really? Eventually, it should lead to a register, what is called as the Federation Register. And those people in this register, basically, we are saying that they are substantially equivalent. And hopefully among the Islamic countries, there will not be question of their professional competencies. That means to say, they shouldn't be examined again before they actually probably discharge works in these countries. So this is the history that started our way back in 2009 with the proposal. And then the last one is we're supposed to be having a conference. And this is one of those activities that we are able to do it in Jordan in April, although there is a delay of about a year when we decided on this. So the countries involved are Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Malaysia, and Jordan. And we expect other countries to come in later, right? But that was the decision that was made at one of the conference, the Federation Conference on Engineering Education in 2013, that was done in Medina. We have that conference every 2 years in Medina, and this coming one is going to shift to Makkah, which is going to be in November, early November. And of course, at that time, Qatar was also interested, but they couldn't participate presently. Yeah? So the conclusion, we have 5 countries, plus Egypt, who was initially not in the earlier circle. I think the battery is gone. The projects basically comprising the 2 systems that we talk about, the engineering education system and the professional qualification systems. And it has got to go in tandem. So if you agree, let's say, those 5 countries, which in principle, they had already signed the accord in 2016, those 5 countries, right? And it's going to be implemented progressively. We've already, I think Professor Abang can show the draft version of the 2 accords. It's on the table there, the Makkah and the Medina Accord. And it's not cast in stone. It's going to be improved with time, and we expect participation from all member countries, as well as those who may be not from within the Islamic countries, but also from the United States and so on. We would expect that the Muslims would want to push this agenda, because this agenda is the agenda for the Ummah. Right? We would like, well, the glorious day of the Muslim Ummah in those days to come back. And we need to actually push this agenda. And we know that education, for example, for now, it can be devoid of soul. And that's being talked about even in Stanford, in MIT, education without soul. You know, graduates coming out, yes, they have all the technical competencies, but are they really ethical in the way that they approach on things? Who actually inculcate this? Is it the duty of the parents? Or is it the duty of the university? Or is it the duty of the engineering institutions? So in fact, it is the duty of everybody, and of course, the engineering institution has an important role to play here, and accreditation can actually provide that. That's, I will just skip this. So in 2016, it was actually signed in Makkah. Both accords were actually signed in Makkah. And these are the countries, right? These are the countries. And accreditation of degree programs basically is about differentiating engineering to engineering technology. Now, some countries mix them. So if we need to accredit, it is only engineering. If it is for engineering, if it is engineering technology, there will be another accord that one can say, which the Medina Accord is not looking into that yet. So we are focusing on the engineering. So gradually it's been agreed upon. There are substantial equivalence accreditation processes that needs to be developed. Cross-evaluation between countries has got to be done. This is a process for mutual recognition. And there must be a time frame as to how long would we give that accreditation. And there shouldn't be any cross-boundary. That means jurisdiction only looks at its own. They shouldn't be going across the boundary to accredit other programs. That's the proposal. And when it comes to the IPEA, I think Professor Abang is going to talk about this. So I'm going to skip this about accreditation of engineers. But what is the FEIIC recognized body, ECAPS, is all about? It's actually trying to bring signatories of Makkah and Medina Accord through the recognition of ECAPS projects. And with that, we have actually formed what is called as the accreditation body for Medina Accord, and the board will make a decision finally as to the substantial equivalency. Now, in the end, the FEIIC register will be the ultimate, where all these graduates, upon fulfilling their professional qualification, would be registered as the FEIIC engineers. In terms of structure and governance, FEIIC Council and General Assembly is the one that makes the final decision. It appoints the board of Medina Accord. And then this board will invite those to participate, those from the Federation to participate, especially the signatories of the Medina Accord. And that forms an annual meeting. We would like to have an annual meeting just like the IEA. And basically, the Medina Accord will have its own rules and procedures as well as guidelines, as what Professor Abang has been showing you just now. So all these have been developed, and of course, as I mentioned, that is not cast in stone, that we can still change them with time. But the implementation that we talk about can be tricky. These are the challenges, because it requires financial contribution, right? And similarly with the Makkah Accord. So this is to acknowledge those people who have actually contributed to the development of the ECAPS project from 2013 to 2017. And this is the current commission right now that has been appointed. And of course, the recommendation, there are about 8 recommendations that were made. And to date, we have only managed to cover the one in black. Right? The one in red means still not done yet. So we are progressing. And I would like to share Malaysian experience. Here we have many, you see, one thing about the Medina Accord, it is not really an exclusive like International Engineering Alliance. We expect everybody to be part of it. It is the inclusivity that we talk about. So in Malaysia, we have the Board of Engineers, Malaysian Society, Institution of Engineers, and the Malaysian Qualification Agency. So these are the bodies that are actually conducting accreditation, whether at education or professional level. So you can see the distribution there, right? The Malaysian Qualification Agency only looks at the non-professional degrees. So the Board of Engineers is the sole responsibility given to a Board of Engineers to accredit engineering programs in Malaysia, right? It is not the Malaysian Qualification Agency, although there is a joint technical committee that sits together that makes the final decision for the Malaysian Qualification Agency. And here, this is the structure that we have. For example, the Engineering Accreditation Council under the Board of Engineers Malaysia, right? It has representative from the board, learned bodies, Malaysian Qualification Agency, Public Services Department, because in the past, this is meant for those who are going to work with the government, and then major industry representatives. That comprises the whole council. And we have a 17-man council, basically, of men and women. And then, of course, our evaluation panels actually provide all the necessary information when they actually visit, right? When they actually visit the universities, they are being supported by the accreditation department. And once the decision is made here, it's final, it's only for endorsement at the board. But decision could already be given to the universities when it comes to if the programs are already accredited. So we are actually mandated, the Engineering Accreditation Council. And when it comes to professional requirements, these are the steps required, where we also have the final step, what is called as the professional engineers with practicing certificate. These are only meant for submitting person. Those who do not want to do submission, they could be just become professional engineers. So in conclusion, basically we talk about the world is going for mobility, quality is an important agenda. Of course, there are many challenges, especially in ECAPS, especially on the financial side of it. But I think if the commitment given, I'm sure it can really work, because the whole idea at the end of the day is that we do have the experience, but our intention is meant for the ummah, right? And what is a better intention if it is not for the ummah? So with that, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.